the excitement is high because it's Professor K.K. Sinha's another book. Last book, which again I had an honor to host the launch, was Manthan. And after that, I told the professor that, now I'm sure there's a new Manthan journey beginning from today. And I was very much eagerly waiting for his book, and there was Return of Surya. And then I thought now is the third that he's planning. And I remember a very interesting incident when Professor Sinha spoke to me, and he said that, remember Santhal Parganas, and since I'm from Jamshedpur, he told me and he kind of connected me to the stories of the Santhals and how in their songs during freedom struggle, there was such a big role that the Bahrupians played. So I was kind of very excited and I knew something great was coming ahead. And look where we are today, a beautiful book, The Bahrupian Challenge by Professor K.K. Sinha and S.V. Nathan. Um, it's a real big honor for me to read to you words of Mr. H.V. Goenka, who says that this book is an earnest attempt to rekindle that association and to align modern HR thoughts with the best of what our culture teaches us. With a wealth of experience behind them, a robust understanding of history, ancient Indian philosophy, Vedic teachings, and mythology, they have presented a captivating and potentially far reaching set of ideas that can find effective use in the HR arena. All organizations, whether commercial or social, Indian or global, will find the insights useful, particularly when they address the complex subject of organizational purpose. Purpose which is being redefined by most large and successful organizations. With organizations becoming far more liberal, trusting, and transparent, there was so much to explore. And who would be better people than the two uh, authors present here today with their beautiful, beautiful book? And I'm just waiting to, bring all of you into this small space where people have joined in from different backgrounds, not just HR. So I'm sure you will be able to celebrate your own culture. And in the next few hours that we are going to be together, so many more trivia I'll be bringing to you and bringing to you a wonderful evening. I hope we'll all enjoy this day when we all will witness the launch of the Bahrupian Challenge, Inventing the New HR, edited by Professor K.K. Sinha and Mr. S.V. Nathan. At this outset, the one person who should be the next to start the session would be none other than the inspiration behind several of these documents that our institute has come up with, our director, Dr. Harivansh Chaturvedi. We all know him as professor and director of our institute and alternate president of Education Promotion Society of India, with more than 4 decades of teaching, research, academic and administration, and advisory roles, and leading a lot of bodies like AICT, AIMA, NHRDN, and so many. So just the right person to tell you that, how COVID was an opportunity for all of us to document so many things for the generations ahead. And I think his own book also was released, The New Normal Challenges of Managing Business, Social, and Ecological Systems in the Post-COVID-19 Era. So over to you, Dr. Chaturvedi, because we want you to tell us so much more through your welcome address. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Saloni ji. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is my proud privilege to welcome the Honorable Chief Guest, Dr. T.V. Rao, esteemed guest of honor, Dr. Arvind Agrawal and Mr. Chris Sankar, and two authors of the book, Professor K.K. Sinha and Mr. S.V. Nathan. This book is an outcome of brainstorming interactions between industry leaders and academia at HR Roundtable anchored by Professor K.K. Sinha and Sri S.V. Nathan. BIMTECH has been facilitating HR Roundtable since 2012 in partnership with NHRDN and Deloitte under the leadership of Professor K.K. Sinha, Mr. Dhananjay Singh, and Mr. S.V. Nathan. So far, 36 HR roundtables have been organized in various metro cities across the country, and a few because of COVID through virtual mode during last 1 year, 4 months. We are stepping into 10th year of this novel experiment, and I have collected few informations. More than 4,200 HR professionals have participated in these roundtables, and more than 170 industry veterans from the HR fraternity have shared their views on critical HR issues through these forums. So it's a very emotional moment for us when we are going to see the launching of the second book on HR Roundtable. I know for last 1 year, both Professor Sinha and Mr. Nathan have been very busy for finalizing the book and its manuscript. Through this book about to be released now, intellectual churning of the 14 HR roundtables held during 2014-17 have been compiled. Deloitte has been providing research input to this endeavor by presenting the key findings of the Deloitte Global Human Capital Trends Report and also by moderating the roundtable discussions. This book can be a very good reference point for future researchers on HR issues because the views of 60 plus HR leaders have been documented under various themes chosen for the 16 HR roundtables. I'm very happy that the book prepared, edited by Professor Sinha and Mr. Nathan is being launched today by three stalwarts of the HR profession in our country. Our chief guest, Dr. T.V. Rao, is a legend in the HR and OB area as a professor at IIM Ahmedabad, as a renowned HR thought leader, and one of the founders of NHRDN. He has contributed significantly to shaping the HR and OB discipline in our country. On behalf of the organizers, I extend a very warm welcome to him. Thank you, sir, for finding time today to launch this book. Our guest of honor, Dr. Arvind Agrawal, is a respected name in the field of HR. He has a rich academic background. He is alumnus of a few leading institutions of our country, which IIT Kharagpur, IIM Ahmedabad, and IIT Mumbai. He has served on the boards of several companies, including as a management board member of RPG Group for over 15 years. A hearty welcome to Dr. Arvind Agrawal. Our second guest of honor, Mr. Chris Shankar, is a younger face of the HR fraternity in India. He is EVP and Group Head HR Infosys, one of the leading IT majors in the country. He has recently completed his tenure as the president of the NHRDN, where he has left his mark as a transformational leader. I extend a warm welcome to Mr. Chris Shankar. I express my sincere gratitude to both the authors of the book, Professor K.K. Sinha and Mr. S.V. Nathan, who have devoted their precious time to compile and edit this book. I know it personally, that how much labor of love has been invested by both of them in editing this book. The book launching function of today is being attended by many senior and young HR professionals. Several of them have been speakers in HR roundtables organized during 2014-17. I welcome all of them for joining the event today. I also find several B schools faculty and young researchers as participants in this function. A hearty welcome to all of them. I hope the book being launched today will be very useful both for academia at B schools and HR practitioners in the corporate world, because it took a very good snapshot of prevailing practices, challenges, and opportunities of the Indian HR. The book is coming out at a time when there is a turmoil in the industry world over due to pandemic. HR professionals have been experimenting with innovative practices to comply with COVID-19 protocols. I must congratulate and thank Professor Sinha and Srinathan for providing the established HR solutions at one place through this book, which may inspire the practicing HR professionals in their endeavors to adapting the COVID-19 protocol. I'm sure classroom discussions at these schools will undergo dramatic change in coming years, and use of this reference book will definitely help the teachers who are teaching OBHR in our these schools in India. I express my sincere gratitude to all of you. Once again, a hearty welcome on behalf of BIMTECH and the authors of the book.
Thank you so much, Dr. Chaturvedi. And yes, we all know the kind of passion Professor Sinha has been demonstrating in curating such wonderful books of wisdom. And just the time to hand it over to the two wonderful authors and editors of the Bahrupian Challenge. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's time now for me to invite our one of the editors, Mr. S.V. Nathan, who's Partner and Chief Talent Officer, Deloitte and National President NHRDN. Mr. Nathan has over 30 years of experience in HR and management across diverse industries, including manufacturing, services, telecom, and information technology. He is known to all of us as an industry leader, mentor, and advocate of ethical leadership. And with his vast experience in building and leading high-performing teams in both national and multinational Indian organizations, and is currently the Chief Talent Officer at Deloitte India. It's a very big honor for me to introduce to him as an alumnus of Acceleri, because I come from the same city, and he's an avid reader, and his blog, Office Truths on LinkedIn, I think it's catching a lot of attention. It's a hashtag Office Truths. It's amazing to read those. And we all know that he's the top 25 voices and influencer of 2020. LinkedIn has recognized him for his voice there. He serves as the chairman of Sumedas, which is a non-for-profit education and research body devoted to self and organization development. Mr. Nathan, before I hand it over to you, one of the quotation which we took from the book, it says, we understand how dangerous a mask can be. We all become what we pretend to be. But honestly, we're very curious, why pretend? So how did you come up with the idea, and how did it all unfold? Mr. Srinathan, over to you.
Hey, so this is the question that is best responded by Professor K.K. Sinha, because we were tossing up this idea, whether it should be Bahrupian, what should it be? And so why don't I allow for Professor K.K. Sinha to explain how we arrived at this Bahrupi, because there were other titles and so on. So over to you, Professor Sinha.
That's very smart of you. Yeah.
So before I actually allow him to speak, sorry to cut you short here, but we all must tell everybody about a little of the work that Professor Sinha has done with us. Let me just quickly formally introduce him, and then both of you can take over. We are really looking forward to your, candid discussions. So we all know Professor Sinha as a poet. I think I love his poetry, and we all know his passion towards Indian mythology and Indian culture. And he knows that it has to be handed over to the next generation with great care, and in a way that it really intrigues them to pick up the book and read deeper, and also imbibe those into their daily practices. So Professor Sinha, he's a graduate with honors in economics, and he's a gold medalist from Patna and University of Patna. And the energy sector, we have no adjective that can suit his name when it comes to his contribution to the energy sector, SAIL, NTPC, Reliance, Jindals, and Aditya Birla Group, and several of these which have been touched by his consultancy work. And we know that he has been contributing to creating a can-do culture, for which he's so famous. And he received extensive learnings from Harvard and Templon from Oxford, Michigan Business School, and various reputed organization. And his books, My Experiments with Unleashing People Power, and Manthan, Art and Science of Developing Leaders, and Return of the Surya. These are some of his contributions while serving as the Dean in Executive Education at BIMTECH. I won't want to read more because both of you have to tell us how did this all happen, and all of us want to know the little stories behind it.
Hi, Nathan, as I said, outsmarted me. Actually, it's a very interesting metaphor, Bahrupia. And it literally means several forms, many forms. And I think it cannot suit any other profession better than HR, that it has got to take many forms or many shapes to really survive and deliver the best to the business organization. I think perhaps that is why we thought that we were zeroing down on it. And I was reminded of my childhood days when we used to see a lot of Behrupias in Santal Pargana, and they used to not play a role of one person or one character, but it used to be a hero sometimes, sometimes a villain, sometimes the same person will play a heroine also surprisingly, or a supporting actor, or maybe even in a prompter in the theater, or rather we used to call it jatra. So I think it was a wonderful role that he used to play or she used to play, very varied roles. It was kind of a meta role that he used to bring with him in the shows. Sometimes he'll play Sita, sometimes he'll play Rama, sometimes he'll play Ravana. I think it was very surprising, and they were all successful. They were all successful in that. And if you succeed in the kind of various forms of roles, you have done it as a real professional in HR field in the business. I think if you remember, and I would like to really mention to you that you remember Mahabharat story of what the at the time when the Pandavas were given a punishment by Kauravas to go into hideout,
Inga.
Yeah. What is the
Incognito. Yes.
yeah? So when they go and hide in the kingdom of Virat, King Virat, and they all play different roles. Arjun is nothing to do with dance or music. Arjun was a warrior, a great warrior in his own right. He plays as a dance teacher to the Virat's daughter, Uttara or something. So I think there were similar characters like Bhim or so many others. They were all playing their roles. They were all playing their roles, and for not 1 day, 2 day, or 3 days or scenes, but 12 years in a row, and they succeeded. They succeeded. I think I sometime if I get an opportunity, I'll narrate the incident as to how Arjun transforms himself back after 12 years from Brihannala to the great warrior Arjun. And everybody was surprised. So was this Prince Uttara. So when he runs away, seeing the Kauravas army outside in the morning, when he runs away, Arjuna catches his arm. What are you doing? Why are you running? You are a prince of this kingdom. And at that time, when Virat son says that, can you prove that you are Arjun? You will get me killed also. Let me run away. And then Arjun says, yeah, he gives all the proof that, yeah, he is Arjun. Then he comes back and he transforms from a koi dancer or danseuse to a prince who is a warrior of the first order in the country. So I think the role that HR needs to play in the day-to-day affair and in more significant orders is really significant. It's very powerful role that he has to play and succeed in all of them. Otherwise, he will not be able to survive. So I think we chose from all these angles that the Bahrupian challenge, the challenge of immediately changing the role from one to the other and yet another and yet another. So I think the success depends on how committed, how hardworking, how living with the role played by the HR guys. I think perhaps that's what made Nathan and me and some of his friends think about this name of Bahrupian Challenge. And I
So
think,
let me just add on to what Professor Sinha just talked about. So when we are tossing up this idea, um, in my childhood, I had seen a lot of jatras because we used to stay in Calcutta, and so it started growing up in my mind, and the idea kind of stuck. If you look at what a HR person does, we talked about roles. Some roles are tangible, some roles are completely intangible. If you look at what our Baruchi does is he plays a role and then he steps back and watches the audience and sees whether there is a connect out there.
correct.
And if there is a connect which is failing, then he goes back in that particular role, performs a little bit more, and again steps back. So that's the nature of the role taking. And if you really look at the commitment of a Bahrupi, is just completely intense in whatever role that they play. There are, I mean, in the nature of role taking, there are three elements. The first one is how much do I put into this particular script? So that is one, knowing the script. Second, acting the script out. But the last one is the one where is my authentic self in playing this role? And I want to come back to, and I'm sure that Professor Rao will also speak about this, because the human in that particular role needs to be discharged to the authentic self of the role holder. And I just felt very connected with this. I will share a couple of very quick stories. One, there's a villain, and let's say this is in Tollywood or Collywood or whichever wood you want. And he had always been playing this villain role. One fine day, he said he's so good in this, he wants to play the role of a hero. Everybody came and told him, look, you can do whatever that you want. I don't think you can be a hero. So, but he insisted, he produced the movie himself, and as was expected, it was a massive flop. And people asked him much later, what happened? And somebody in the audience said, it was not his authentic self. And you could really trip on that. The second one is the story of one of the greatest sons of Telangana. And this is a very famous actor, and Dr. Nageshwar Rao. And this gentleman was a phenomenal actor. So he was very fond of his mother. And every time he came back from his shoot, mother used to ask him, how have you done? He says, I played my best. The mother always used to say, son, whatever that you do, keep your role outside the house, shed that role, and then come inside the house. And I was very touched by just the way women help in shaping what a Bahurupi is. Because a Bahurupi in more than one ways also plays a role of a husband, a son, and you can go on to many roles. So I got very fascinated with this. So when Professor Sinha and I were tossing up this idea, I said, yes, this is exactly the spot. And we take on several roles, but being the authentic self in that one is the one that was very endearing to me. So back to you. And you must give us a time limit on all of these. Otherwise, we could just go on forever.
No, we are doing our chat together, and perhaps we will complete our roles, 10 minutes roles each. So I think we'll hand over to the next speaker.
We have the space for both of you because we want to know the journey of the book and several other elements. I have a lot of interesting, things to ask. One is to any of you. The whole structure of the book, the way you have compiled it, you have got these things like Valli. And I'm very curious, the way you structured it, it connects me to this older way of documenting, like the scriptures are written. So what is Valli and how and who kind of came up with this is one. The second is that you must have met very impactful Bahrupias in your personal and professional life who may have, those stories, are they there in this book? Just a glimpse maybe? Okay.
Yeah. Nathan, would you like, or I go on?
I think you should do that.
No, one Saloni that you are mentioning was a Valli. It just came, We had written Manthan and the other book, Surya, where we used the term called Vistas. So we had about 50, 60 panelists who were eminent professionals of HR, and they had articulated on the theme or sub-theme. We used their input and referred it as Vista, because these are the lanes and bylanes. Perhaps it's a French word or something. I don't. Arvind can really throw a light sometime on this. But then this really referred to that. But later, when we came to Bahrupia, which is more of a colloquial and a countryside word, we thought we'll bring a Indian word, and that's why we chose Tamil with the influence of Nathan. Uh, so Valli means a small creeper which keeps on climbing up and up. So that we thought that we'll use that instead of Vista this time, because we are trying to Indianize the character of HR. Yeah.
Really touches the chord, sir. It really makes us feel so proud of our own scriptures. Our generation and the later generations, they need to connect so beautifully, and the structure of the book will help us do that. So, Mr. Nathan, who are those Berupias that you met across the several decades of both of yours corporate and personal journey? If one or two anecdotes on that, if possible.
So I will tell you the greatest Bahurupia in my own life, the person who really shaped me for who I am, is my mother. And see, Bahrupi in a very colloquial way is actually a negative word.
Negative, yeah.
Yeah, but the way to look at this is she donned many caps. She was the administrator, she was the teacher, she was the caregiver, and every one of those was in such wonderful measures. It's very hard for anybody. And cross your heart, you will see that Bahrupi in every of the person that touched you the most, be it your father or your mother. And I think that's the one that comes to me. And it really evokes the great. I mean, if you want to be good in whatever that you do, be authentic. That's where you start. I think the greatest effect that one has had is from my mother. Purely from a Bahurupi who was just an outstanding professional in my life, that was one of my first bosses, a gentleman called Mr. Ganesh Jejurikar. And Ganesh Jejurikar unfortunately passed just about a week back. And he was a gentleman par excellence. I still remember my first interview that I'd gone to, and there were just a lot of people from the board and so on. And here was a gentleman who opened the door, made us sit down, gave us cups of tea. He was in a double-breasted jacket. And I really thought that he was one of the busybodies around the place. I thought that he must be an exalted version of one of those people who have spent a fair amount of years and therefore has been charged with the responsibility. And in the final day, when we got our letters and all that, they were asked to go meet the big boss. And who do we see just behind that? Was this gentleman, Mr. Ganesh Jejurikar. I'll never forget him. He was a great professional. And in the evening, you meet him in the club. And when you meet him in the club, it's no boss, it's nothing. He's another commoner. And he taught us the value of just being who you are. And so I would think that they were, very early in your careers, if you have great bosses, they make a huge impact on you. So these were the two in my life.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, sir. There's so much to listen to, and maybe we'll meet again and read the book together. And that could be a very good session. I'm really looking forward to that. However, we have about 4-5 minutes more with both of you. So this is something for Professor Sinha. Now, all of a sudden, you thought that there'll be a book called The Bahrupian Challenge, and you conceptualized it. But then what brought you into that story of Sidhu Kanu and the Santalis, because that, I think it's a
Yeah.
very good step too, because in
Act-
India we are talking about inclusivity, we are talking about, the certain sections of our society, the pride. I felt very touched when I read that little. If you permit, can I read a few lines from your book, sir?
yeah, why not? Why not? It'll be a
Okay, so this
honor.
is, I remember you were trying to translate some of those war stories and the poems and the songs,
Yeah.
Santhali songs. So I just thought that the Santhal Hool is what you have referred to.
Yeah, that is
Remember you told me also about
Santal Hul was primarily a revolt against the British
huh.
100 years ago, you know.
The two reasons why I felt very connected. One was because of the theatrical, the context, and the second is I come from that part of the country, and the third is that my thesis in my masters was in Santali, so I loved going back to it. There's something that there was a time when Sidhu Kanu were being hanged to death.
Yeah.
So there was a small song, and there's a translation which I thought I should read so that everybody picks up the book to go to that, part. On whose command, Sidhu Kanu, you slaughtered Sukur? Sorry if I'm wrong in my pronunciation.
No, no, it's all right.
Okay. You chopped Sukur Muni on Sidhu's order, mother. On Sidhu's command, mother, I slaughtered Sukur Muni. Your hands are tied, Badal, legs are chained. You're taken to Suri jail. You're taken to Suri jail, flute in my hands, mother, bracelet around my feet, going to Suri mother to see the Suri fair. So this is so beautiful because who would ever link, a learning like HR and go back to our own songs? We never thought. So thank you so much for bringing that in. So tell me quickly, I'm sorry, we'll have a few minutes only, sir. But what brought you into this zone where you thought,
Actually,
ये गाने उन तक पहुंचने चाहिए?
actually, this song I remembered when I was maybe 5 or 6 years old. I
Hmm.
was brought up in my nani's house, you know, in Dumka, which is Santal Parganaka, you know, head of the city, whatever you call. And we used to sit after the school or whatever, no school, on the veranda, all kids, you know, the cousins and brothers and sisters. And when these Santalis will come with their kind of a dance drama yatra that they would come and present like a Bahrupia dance, this was a very famous one for them to bring and present to the people and the students and young ones, where the three brothers were entangled into bringing a revolt against the British and the Sahukars to whatever, I mean, bring a liberation for their clan, you know, because they were oppressed clan. And that song I remembered, and I remembered the Santali portion, but not the Hindi portion, which I asked some of your professors to translate it for me in Hindi, which I presented in the book. It was a very touching song. And I remember once, maybe a year after, this was revolted by the local people also, and they really fought against the administration and the police, and they had some kind of a row there. So I think it was very emoting song and very emoting Barupia dance that we saw, and I remembered. That's why I thought, while talking of introducing Barupia concept,
This is
uh, this will be a very representative of the Barupias.
wonderful, sir. Sorry for closing both of your session here because we want to hear from others and how this book was shaping up and what everybody felt about
Sure,
the
sure,
content.
sure, sure.
So pardon me, but I'm waiting for another session. I'll get back to both of you very soon. The stories are
Hey,
amazing.
Saloni,
Yes,
before you move, I must mention
yes,
I have spent over almost 12 years in the area that Professor
yeah,
Sinha was speaking about.
yeah,
And, and so there is a huge connect.
absolutely.
Thank you.
So, anyway,
Thank
back to you.
you. Thank you so much because there's so many people who will be reading this book and they'll be from that region or the Santal themselves. When they read such books, who would be in the corporate, they'll feel so happy and they'll feel the pride. Also, will make them feel more belongingness will increase in the organization. I feel. So that's true. A lot of young people are joining the workforce, and we are talking about words like flexibility, purpose, social and environmental impact, autonomy, all the things that are about an organizational culture. So when this book was shaping up, there were some very pertinent questions which were raised, and maybe this book will have an answer to those. And that's the reason why, I would like to now invite our guest of honor, Mr. Krish Shankar, the Executive Vice President, Group Head HR Infosys, and former National President of NHRDN. And we must know a little about him before I invite him to speak. Mr. Shankar is the group head, as I said, of HR development at Infosys. And he's responsible for envisioning employee experience and driving the talent and organization strategy. He's over 30 years of experience and has led HR functions in organizations like Bharti Airtel, Philips, Hindustan Unilever. And with his wide-ranging experience, he has facilitated transformation and capability development. So completely a transformation of HR into a strategic partner. And he was a postgraduate from XLRI Jamshedpur, and I'm so happy to invite him as the next speaker. His blogs are also catching a lot of attention, and he brings so much in whenever there are conversations with him. So I would now want to hear Mr. Krish Shankar. So please, over to you.
Okay, thank you, Saloni. Thank you very much. Firstly, it's a pleasure to be here. I think I know it's wonderful spending this evening. I read this book, not fully, but some parts of it, and it's fabulous. I think, firstly, I must congratulate Professor Sinha and Nathan for fabulous work in getting this together. What really struck me was that firstly it's got a diverse set of people talking about diverse things. Yeah, so therefore that's number one. You got lots of HR leaders who come together, but more importantly, I think we've tried to really build it in terms of what really the various roles that people play. The various challenges that HR has and the roles that people play, and it kind of really comes across very, very strongly. I think the when I was studying, and Mr. Nathan will remember this very much in XLRI, we had a teacher, Dr. Nilima Acharji, yeah, and I think at that time she used to teach us IR, and one of the things she used to talk about the role of HR is like in terms of this whole paternalistic ma-bap attitude of IR and how it was there. That was the kind of the role. I mean, if you just look at the 70s and the 80s, the kind of role that HR was playing. Cut to now, how the role is changing. I think that's a phenomenal change. Yeah, I think the role that HR plays now is very, very different. But that's like over time you can see the shift in the roles that HR play. But at the heart of that, there are some values that are constant. Yeah, I think the values that need to be there are constant, and therefore we've got to really understand what are those that are constant, that are needed for success. Yeah, and the values of humanity, the values of objectivity, the values of being ensuring that fairness is done for everything. All that is really at the heart of HR. But within this whole thing, if you take the time now, every HR person has to play very different roles. Yeah, you got to be a visionary to inspire people. You got to be, you got to come and have a very alternative point of view, or provoke conflict at times. You got to at times come together and get people together. So there are various things that we've got to do, and that really, and I think that's one of the challenges in HR, that you got to of all the roles in any corporate organization. I think the roles that HR play, purely from the hat that they wear, I mean, changes quite a lot, and you've got to really have that flexibility of the different types of roles that one needs to play. So I mean, I think that's the context, but I think what this book has done is really bring together various perspectives from various leaders, and kind of talk about the different challenges, the different roles that we all have to play. And I think it's a wonderful read. Anybody reading it will get a flavor of the thoughts, I mean, of so many, almost about 100 thought leaders in that book. So it's a fabulous initiative and fabulous book. So thank you both very much for this, and I'm sure the HR community will be actually, grateful to you for having put this together and kind of, publish it for us. Thank you, and all the best.
Thank you so much. It's really an honor to have you as our guest of honor for the day. And we have another eminent person joining us. And let me introduce our second guest of honor of the evening, Dr. Arvind Agrawal. We must be very aware of his accomplishments, but yet I will do the formality of introducing him to our audience. Dr. Agrawal is an executive coach and HR consultant, and he's been the former president and chief executive of corporate development and group HR, member of management board of RPG Enterprises. And Dr. Agrawal is the managing partner, lead associate, is an executive coach and a consultant with extensive corporate experience. And he's worked at senior leadership positions and has been board of member at various very reputed organizations like Scott's JCB. And he has handled the marketing function and corporate strategy in Modi's Iraqs. And there are so many things. He's been recognized for his contributions and has been awarded National HRD Award in '92. And he served as the NHRD president during 2000 and 2002, an alumnus of IIT Bombay and Kharagpur and Ahmedabad. So over to you, Mr. Agrawal. How has been this journey of the book, and what is it that you want to share with us?
Well, thank you, Professor Sinha, for inviting me in, and good evening to you, Dr. Chaturvedi, both the authors, Professor Sinha and Nathan, both my good friends as well, and the fellow panelist, Dr. Rao, Mr. Krish Shankar, and fellow professionals. Firstly, I'd like to congratulate Dr. Chaturvedi for spearheading this roundtable, which has been sustained over such a long period of time, good 10 years, bringing in thought leaders and practitioners. And occasionally I have been invited as well, and I had privilege of sharing my thoughts. And I didn't realize that you have touched 4,000 people in a passage of these 10 years. That's remarkable. My compliments for sustaining this momentum. And equally laudable is the effort to document the deliberations of these conferences, because that makes the conferences timeless, because the wisdom is timeless. And you have taken pains, and I know, Professor Sinha in particular, how much pain you have taken through slew of publications by putting these documents together. So I really appreciate that for putting this together. And when I got to know about this book, I was first startled with the topic of, with the title of the book, Bahrupian. Because to me, Bahrupian is someone who can't be trusted, someone who says different things at different times. And I said, yes, I know a lot of HR people have this kind of an image, but people like Professor Sinha and Nathan, I respect a lot, both of them, and they're accomplished professional on their own right. How come they've chosen the title of the book as Bahrupian? So I was very disturbed. And I looked at Wikipedia. That also was showing somewhere that the person could be a jester in the court and so on and so forth. I said, yes, you mean HR people would be a jester in the corporate world? What are they trying to say? Then I turned to my wife. She happens to come from Bengal, and she's also a performing artist. So she saw a disturbed look on me, and she says, no, it's a very important role, and it is very difficult role. And she drew my attention to a YouTube, because Wikipedia I had already seen. So that was no point going into Wikipedia. So she took me to YouTube. And we searched for Bahrupian. And there was a beautiful fable which sort of shifted my mindset completely. This is a fable about a village where a lot of people were going hungry. So two people, a person who is a drummer and the other person who plays flute, two of them decide to go to the local king, and they were allowed to enter the courtroom, and the drummer started beating the drum, but no sound was coming. And the person who was playing the flute was playing the flute, but no sound was coming. So king was very annoyed, and he says, why are you not beating your drum, playing your flute properly? Still no sound coming. So the king said, his second time, third time, he tells the minister that please ask them to get out if the sound cannot be produced. I'm not here to have this kind of a circus in my court. So then the drummer speaks, and he said, sir, we have not been paid for 3 months. We are going hungry in the village. We've been doing all the work assigned to us by the kingdom. And that is why the sound is not coming, because the stomach is hungry. So the king was so annoyed, and he turned to the minister that you have been telling me that everything is fine in my kingdom. He immediately ordered to pay the wages and also told the minister that your wages are going to be cut for the next 3 months. So this important message of the villagers, these two Bahrupians were able to convey to the king. And that's the importance of the role which HR folks have to understand what's happening in the organization, what is happening in minds of the people, and convey that message to the decision makers. So I applaud you, Professor Sinha and Nathan, for choosing this very apt description of the enormous role which we play as an HR professional. Congratulations, and my gratitude for bringing it in such succinct and colorful manner. I wish I had a mask and we all had a mask and we could wear that, which is there on the cover of your book.
We thought of it, but we were late. Yeah.
But the profession faces many challenges today.
Yeah.
Technology is all pervasive, both positive and negative. Pandemic, which we have survived until now, but we don't know what future holds. The human problems, the livelihood, the safety, the employment, millions we have seen migrating from the city to the villages. How many of them are going to be able to return back to the livelihood? The rising cost, productivity, the global competitiveness, the business community, business continuity, all of these are problems in front of us. And human resource professional has a role to play to find an appropriate solution. And I say appropriate because what works in one place may not work in another place. And this is all compounded by the serious shortage of human professional, the HR professionals who are of credibility, of caliber, and who are also dependable. And I underline the word dependable because I remember one of the books in which Professor Sinha has written about the mongoose whose half body is of gold. And this mongoose keeps going from yagna to yagna in Mahabharata with the hope that full body will become that of gold. So I see a lot of HR professionals who keep hopping jobs with the hope that they'll become grand at some stage. But as we know that rolling a stone does not gather mass, we need to be dependable, dig in our heels, and be credible to deal with all of these human problems which face the organization and our people today. I trust the book is a major intervention in that regard because so many young HR professionals are entering in the profession. And these thoughts, which are very succinctly captured, they're not verbose. Many of these thoughts are covered in 1 page, 2 page. And it's very important in this era of WhatsApp to communicate one's message in a very crisp manner. So this book has assembled all of these contemporary thoughts in a very succinct manner. And I hope HR professionals will dip into this and take full advantage of it. And hopefully we would find solution to the human problems which we are confronting today. So my best wishes, and I'm so excited about going through this entire book. At the moment, I've got only few portions that I have been exposed to. It's a great combination of Indian scripture, the editor's own thoughts, and the thought leaders from the roundtables, their personal thoughts. So it's quite a galaxy of, and quite a confluence which has been brought together in this book. My compliments.
Thank you.
So much, sir. The very special moment is here. Time to unveil the wonderful product of their wisdom and to the community. And it's something which is good for all of us, a great gift from Mr. S.V. Nathan and Professor Kishore Sinha. I request everybody to please switch on their videos so that we could unveil the book formally and present. All those who have the book with them would love to display it for to the attendees and make them feel jealous because we already have our copies and the others don't. So congratulations, Professor Sinha and Mr. S.V. Nathan and Bloomsbury India and BIMTECH for such a wonderful compilation. The Bahrupian Challenge, Inventing the New HR, edited by Professor Kishore Sinha and Mr. S.V. Nathan. So congratulations once again. And
Thank
while
you.
everybody embraces this moment, I would like to read a few words of praise that the book has. And I can't read all, but then I would definitely like to read a few of them. And Professor Jagdish Seth, as we all know, he's our mentor. He's been with us. He says that the book, it has excellent essays and from leading forward, thinking scholars and practitioners on how HR can contribute to making a company's ordinary employees and contractors extraordinary. So thank you so much for this, Professor Jagdish Seth. Mr. Naveen Jindal, the chairman of Jindal Steel and Power Limited, has shared his praise for the book, and he says, I'm also happy that they have described the multifaceted changing role of the HR as a conscience keeper of the business, bringing in the value and ethics taught through Upanishad and Upanishadic Vedanta. The book is a sincere effort to keep HR aligned with human touch in the organization today and in the coming times. Robert S. Kaplan, I would like to read his message as well. He says, congratulations on the publication of the book, The Bahrupian Challenge, Inventing the New HR. You have pursued an ambitious challenge to integrate the left brain analytic capabilities of science-based HR with the right brain moral compass and values taught in the Vedanta. I wish I can read a few more, but we would like to do the next really important thing. And what a coincidence, the two very powerful people who have definitely added a lot of insights into this book, the Chitra madams. It's just a coincidence that Mrs. Chitra Nathan and Mrs. Chitra Sinha and Suvira is also here. I can see Suvira. Time to present such a thank you, ma'am, for joining.
इन लोगों को कैसे देखेंगे हम? नहीं कहाँ देख रहा है?
So nice to see them from across the globe joining in. Here is the beautiful book, ma'am, and let us present it to the world with a lot of love and care, a huge direction that we all must follow. So presenting this book, I invite Mr. Nathan to say a few words and present it formally to ma'am and then Professor Sinha as well.
All I can say is, if anything that I do anytime in my life post-marriage, if there's one person responsible for it, this is this wonderful human being by my side, Chitra. So thank you, Chitra. Thank you for all what you do for everybody in this house. In fact, you are the best of the Bahurupis that I know now.
So there's the inspiration right with us. Thank you so much, ma'am, for joining in. It's a wonderful moment to have you here. Professor Sinha, time for you to across, the globe. Ma'am is sitting over there, and tell us something that you want to convey to her in this occasion.
Thank you, Chitra, for joining in. Yeah, from Hawaii or wherever you are now. And Suvira, thank you, beta. Thank you for encouraging me by your presence. Yeah, I remember I used to write poetry, and there were a couple of books which were published, and Dr. Chaturvedi also spread them. But Chitra, where have you gone to? Chitra suddenly said, no, why don't you write professional books? Why do you write all this scrap of poetries? And then suddenly I began, I can see Yash also. Yes, so thank you. The whole family is there. Thank you very much for really joining me too and encouraging me not one, but two or three of almost four of the professional books, Chitra. Thank you. I owe it to you and Suvira and Yash. Thank you.
Would you like to say something, ma'am?
Say something. Okay. Just say thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Suvira can speak.
So I think, we are very proud of our father and KK Sinha. He's always, reinvented himself. Across the years, I've seen him growing up. And so we're extremely proud of him, from being an HR leader to now an academician. I think you inspire us all.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, Papa is a role model to all of us. Our son, actually, you ask him what he wants to become, and he says he wants to be a Renaissance man. And basically, he learns that from Nanu, because Nanu is not only an excellent professional, he is the leader. He is a thought leader in HR in the whole of India. He is an excellent Santur player, a great teacher. So he's been super inspirational.
Thank you, Chitra. Thank you, Suvira. Thank you, Yash. Thank you for being so kind with your words for me. Yeah, I love it.
I would like to invite Mrs. Chitra Nathan to share her experience while the book was being developed. You'll have to unmute yourself, ma'am. Unmute yourself, ma'am.
Nathan, you unmute yourself.
Done.
Yeah. I was very happy when I thought that he's going to write a love story, because he always used to say, we always used to tell him, you should write a story, because you are so good at things. I'm not trying to appreciate him like this, but still we used to always feel that he's very good at stories and all. And I'm so happy that finally he has done it. Thanks for it.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. And once again, a huge congratulations to both the families. Such a wonderful thing for all of us. And I hope everybody will pick up the book. It is published by Bloomsbury India. And this is the time that we all must connect with our Indian legacy. And this book has come up with some amazing anecdotes. I read quite a bit of it, and I really enjoyed. So I'm sure every age group will connect to this, not only the HR function, but every other, role. This just teaches us so much to be like Professor said, extraordinary. Yeah. So what do we do next? We have our chief guest. So this is the time for me to hand over the session to our eminent chief guest of the day. And what to say? I mean, there's so much that we have known about Sir. Our eminent chief guest of the day, Dr. T.V. Rao, he is currently the chairman, TBRLS, and he's a professor at the Indian Institute of Management and Government.
Dolly, I can see you.
Yes, sir. Okay, I thought I heard something. And he's the founder, president of National HRD Network, and honorary director, Academy of HRD in India. He initiated the HRD function and movement in India in mid-70s along with Dr. Uday Parekh. And he's authored 60 books and worked as consultant with UNDP, UNESCO, IIEP Paris, USAID, Commonwealth Secretariat, and I wish I can just read out each and every thing that he has done because such a huge inspiration. Dr. T.V. Rao. Sir?
Thank you very much. Thank you, and it's wonderful.
In the book you have written phrase, and in which you said, while most essays are business relevant, the underpinnings deal with being human, the most neglected part of HR, which Vedas and Upanishads in India teach. So thank you so much for these words. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much. I actually, when I got the invitation, I wondered for a minute. There are so many great people around. Why did Professor Sinha and Dr. Mr. Nathan chose me to be here as a chief guest? I had a lot of debate in myself, and I finally decided, rather than merely praising the book I will praise anyway. I think it is a wonderful book to read. I would want to give ideas for the next book of Sinha Saab and Nathan, and for BIMTECH to take on. First of all, may I congratulate Dr. Chaturvedi and your team, sir. You have created a wonderful culture and climate which enables people like Professor Sinha and the Nathan from outside to be able to contribute and make the knowledge available. I'm sure you are aware of a little work that I had done about 5 years ago called Effective People, in which I defined effective person as one who is constantly searching inward to discover his or her own talent and uses it to make a difference in the lives of other people. You discover your talent and use it to make a difference in the lives of other people. I studied a large number of people from different professions: medical profession, film actors, social workers, professors, educational entrepreneurs, social workers, and so on. And I discovered that effective people, when they are able to disseminate whatever knowledge they have gathered for a large number of other people, I call them as very effective people. So if you are an effective teacher, you are doing your job with commitment and you are making a difference in the lives of the students you teach. But you are not happy at the end of the day. You want this knowledge to be available to a larger number. So what do? You write books, or nowadays you give webinars, pro bono or whatever are the webinars. So you disseminate, you make your knowledge available. So you are making difference not only in the class to whom you teach, but also to a larger number of people. So you are a very, very effective person. This is my definition. But I came up with another definition called super effective people, who even surpass. Now, super effective people are those who look at making something available even when they cease to exist. Now, for example, I think just yesterday we lost Father Abraham, who I think for about 16 years was director of XLRI and 10 years director of Xavier Institute of Management. And I was going through one of the books that we had written, which formed the first book of the National HRD Network, Alternative Approaches and Strategies of Human Resource Development, published in the year 1987. If you go through this book, you would find not much has changed in the world. There are CEOs who talked about a lot of knowledge that has been made available in those days is still more or less the same. So some of these articles are timeless. Now I say, therefore, those people who make their knowledge available by building institutions like what Father Abraham did, or what you are doing, sir, continuously, Professor Chaturvedi, at BIMTECH, where I think KK Sinha is doing through the executive education program and so on. You're all institution builders, and I put you into the category of super effective people. Nathan and Sinha Saab, by writing this book, this wonderful book, I call it a wonderful book, not merely contributions from 60 people, which are short and sweet. Each one of the articles we go through, these are just a couple of pages, 2-3 pages, very nice to read. They make a point, very succinct point, very focused for that particular chapter. But the most interesting part of it is provided by Sinha Saab and Nathan when they have given the introduction at every chapter. They have interpreted, they have brought a lot of knowledge. And as I was reading them, I was remembering I had a PhD student, Arvind knows him very well, who was general manager in Reliance for some time. Later, I think he joined H.N. Arora, who worked, and he was doing his PhD on values and Indian scriptures. That was the kind of a, this was sometime in the year 1991. He was still in Ahmedabad. I was watching this Mahabharat serial, and there is one particular episode, I'm sure most of you would know that, where Bhishma Pitamaha, I think he was all lying on the bed of arrows, and I think he's almost about to give up because he is the one who had that privilege and who had the choice to choose the day when he wants to die. So I think Yudhishthir goes to him to ask about his advice on how to be a good leader. And Bhishma Pitamaha has given, I think in this particular serial, a whole lot of interesting things. And one of the qualities that struck me, and I said that this is what the film director has done. It's not there in actually in the scripture, and that is plant trees and take care of the environment. I think this is something which he has said 1992, but attributed to Bhishma Pitamaha. Then I checked with Arora. I said that, look, I have not read Mahabharata the way I think it is discussed, but I find it hard to believe that Bhishma Pitamaha said all this. Now he brought me some parts of the Shanti Parv and showed it, and he said, I think these are all the kinds of things that were said. Now I am saying this to say, I think the kind of introductions that you have given, these are all timeless, cut across, and the kind of title that you have chosen, Bahrupian, is a wonderful title. And until Arvind mentioned this, I didn't think of the other side of it, which is also an interesting side of it. But that I would say is to use, I think we always learn not only from the positives, we also learn from the negatives and so on. So this is my praise for the work that all of you are doing, to say that you stand out as institution builders and super effective people. Continue to do this work. Now, the point I like to make in terms of the future, we have just gone through the pandemic, and pandemic has taught us many, many lessons. One important lesson we always taught in our classrooms, but found it very difficult for people to actually implement. Emotionally, they were with us whenever we taught, but actually, in terms of practice, didn't. When we say all people are born equal, they are all to be treated equally, etc., etc. I think it is the pandemic that has demonstrated that all people are equal. Whether you are a messenger, or whether you are a daily wage laborer, migratory worker, or you are a president of a country or prime minister, you have to wear a mask. You are subject to, you could die, and you have to follow certain kind of principles. In fact, very interestingly, I found for many years, I was wondering how come India is not growing in terms of human resources. If those of you who know the Human Development Index in 1990, when UNDP started it, India figured out as 90th rank among 110 countries. That means 89 countries, this second most populous country in the world, with the third largest technical manpower in the world, at least that is what we use it to say, had 89 countries who have better developed human resource than itself. And today, 2020, we are 131 in rank out of 189 countries. Things have not improved. And with all the wisdom that we have about human resource development, now how come this is what is happening? Pandemic has shown that the incidence of coronavirus is much higher in HDI high countries as compared to low. In fact, I think if you look at, I think statistics can be read with interest by rightly interpreting them. If you really look at, I think the attack rate and the death rate and so on, we are far ahead in terms of saving lives and taking care of people as compared to some of the other countries. I think with a 1.3 billion people, the kind of incidents we had is, I think, phenomenally less. It could have been worse. And if you remember last year, it was European countries, America, etc. I think they were looking at. So human development has got a different kind of a connotation today as compared to what it was. I think it is not enough to have technological advancement. It is very, very important to have advancement in terms of human resources, people who can take care of themselves. That is how I revisited Maslow's theory and came up with the three need hierarchy level, where today I say, forget about all the 5 levels of hierarchy which Maslow talked about. The most important need today is the need for survival. And this cuts across everyone. Your status, how much money you have, it really doesn't matter. I think you have to take care of yourself. You have to wear masks, you have to maintain social distance, you have to get vaccinated, you have to do all those kind of things. That is the need for survival. If you don't do it, we don't know if you're going to exist tomorrow or not. The second thing is need for security, which includes emotional security, economic security, health security, and all those kind of things. And once you are secure, you have good, your family is taken care of, you are taken care of, your employment is taken care of. Then I condense all the rest to say there is a need for identity. And this identity, this is where I think this Bahrupian is a very interesting kind of concept. You can keep on shifting the identity depending upon the context. In today's context, you discover one kind of an identity. In another tomorrow's context, you discover another kind of an identity. I think the same thing with the others. The others have gone through different forms, different identities. I think Sinha Sahab, you have the latest identity you have is that of a professor in a school and an author and a disseminator of knowledge. Totally different. Now, tomorrow, you may have to, like you talked of Bahrupias. I think the wonderful thing you talked of in one of the chapters, both of you have talked of, was that Bahrupias change their form and then the kind of things that they act, the kind of things they do according to the context. So the context changes that you probably will have to change. I think that's a beautiful kind of a concept you talked of. So identity is something that is there. So the moment you follow this kind of a 3-level need hierarchy, the HR job is cut out for most of the people. What is the role of a HRD person? I would say, please understand human beings as humans. Understand which stage are they. If by chance they are in stage 1, it is your job to look after their safety, survival. Make sure that you can't anymore say that I don't care about your survival. And you have seen in the last couple of years what happened if you don't take note of the migratory labor, and when your company reopens, they are not there. And the CEO asks, what kind of HR guy are you? You don't even know the names of the people. You don't even know where they stay, because they say they're all part-time workers, they're all contract labor and things of that kind. What a nonsense you are talking about. I mean, that is the kind of a thing. So you have to take care of that particular need. If that is taken care of, then I think today the HR stakeholders have become not merely the employee's family. It's the HR job to take care of the family. If the family doesn't exist, the employee is not going to come healthy and happy to the company. You have to take care of work from home. You have to take care of having a nice kind of a atmosphere where the people are living, and you take care of the neighborhood of the people. In the past, we called it corporate social responsibility. Now I say it is not corporate social responsibility, it is a responsibility of every human being to make sure everyone lives happily, healthily, and has the right kind of a neighborhood and so on. Now you are talking of managers. So you as a Bahrupian HR manager, you have to deal with supervised managers who have crossed the first 2 levels of need hierarchy. Then the third one is, I think, to ensure that they are able to establish identity. And the human being is such a complex and wonderful kind of a being that the identity is never complete. Identity, you have one identity today at a very young age, tomorrow you'll have another identity, and the multiples when you help people to discover their own identity. There is nothing like establishing a final identity. So Sinha Sahab, I think it's never final. It is always an opportunity. I think maybe tomorrow there will be a spiritual identity or a totally different kind of identity. So is for Nathan. Today, I think with National HRD Network being the president, we are suggesting, some of us are trying to push Nathan to say HRD should go to schools. Why? Because HRD is not for only people employed in corporate sector. HRD should start with childhood. I am seeing a 5-year-old child, grandson of mine, operating. He picks up my tablet and I don't know how he got the knack of playing games. I don't even know these games, but he goes straight away, downloads the games, and then he starts playing these and asks me, Tata, can you explain it? And I am totally helpless. I can't even explain. So that is the kind of a talent that we have. Therefore, if HRD has to survive, you can't say I'm only concerned with CEOs and senior executives and part-time labor and so on. I think we'll have to say HRD is for all. In fact, this is what I tried to do in 1992 when I worked with Commonwealth Secretariat. I said human resource development has to be thought of at national level. Many people, when I came back and wrote the book, HRD, the countrywide experiences, thought that this is all nonsense because we are only concerned with HRD in corporate sector. In fact, we came up with 10 imperatives for HRD at the time. We said there is no alternative except to invest in girl child. No alternative, girl child. 1992-93, these were the findings. Number 2, start with primary education. That is where HRD should focus on. Number 3, build adult education. Number 4, we talked of the schools, then the technical education, then making governments entrepreneurial. Then we talked of the role of NGOs. I think these are all 10 imperatives. I don't want to go on to this. This is a wonderful agenda that was set up. It is unfortunately true even today. That is the reason why we have not paid attention. That is why we stand at 131 out of 189, because we have paid only lip sympathy to HR. HR becomes the job of only a category of people who go through their masters in HR from some of the elitistic institutions, and we forgot the teacher who is teaching primary school children. And even more than the teacher, the mother, whom I think both of you have acknowledged, Nathan and Sinha, the mother, not only your mother, I think also both the Chitras as mothers and both the Chitras as sources of inspiration. I think is, to me, the first HRD manager. So HRD can't anymore say, I'm not concerned about mothers. I think we have to be concerned about parents, we have to be concerned about children, we have to be concerned about schools, we have to be concerned about colleges, we have to be concerned about everything. So the moment you say the target group of human resource development is not merely the employees in the corporate sector, it is a society at large, then we start seeing a lot of alignment between the purposes of organization. I was giving a challenge to some people the other day who are attending my lecture. I said, go through the purpose of any organization. All purposes of all organizations are service to people, human beings. All customers, including those who sell liquor and cigarettes, they still say that we are in the business of serving people. This is what you say. Maybe entertainment or whatever is the kind of a thing you have. So I think my suggestion and my focus for the future would be HR should recognize HR is for all, number one. And number two, the biggest lesson for HRD people is when they start really looking at every human being as a possible target for HRD and doing HRD for children, human resource development, or I think Sadhguru of Isha Foundation calls it, he says, don't call it human resources, call it human possibilities. I agree with him to some extent, but I don't want to say human is not a resource. I do think that humans are only born with unlimited resource, but possibilities is probably a better word. In fact, I came up with an idea. If HR departments, I think this is one of the questions that some of you are raising, do HR have this particular kind of a capability to influence the entire kind of a nation, entire kind of a society? So that's where I came up with an idea that we should develop a new cadre of people whom I have called as human possibility volunteers. Human possibility volunteers are those people, I mean, anybody who volunteers to understand human beings. We are all human beings. Since we are human beings, it is not difficult to understand other human beings. It does not require a 2 years master's degree to understand human beings. In fact, I would like to challenge some of those of us who have taught for so many years, HRD for 2 years, don't want to guarantee that we have produced good human beings always. So it is very important for us to say that human possibility volunteers first learn to be, they are volunteers. They have no designation, they have no salaries, they are willing to work. And we have indicated Ravi Mathai, who was the first full-time director of IIM Ahmedabad. I had the privilege, both Uday Parikh and I had the opportunity to work with him. I think after he stepped aside as the director of IIM Ahmedabad, we started working in rural Javaja, where we wanted to link education with development. And he came up with the concept of independent volunteers. The IIM graduates, as soon as they graduate, we used to take them with a 600 rupees stipend and get them, you work for 1 year, understand the human beings in the village, get them to be entrepreneurial. I think these are wonderful experiences that were available. So I borrowed the concept of volunteers. And I was very surprised when Sadhguru of Isha Foundation told me he had 9 million volunteers. Now, I think it is possible to develop human possibility volunteers. So if you have a whole lot of a new cadre of people who are human possibility volunteers, aim at working for HR at all levels, I think we will be well set maybe in the next 15 to 20 years, or maybe if not 20 years, next 50 years, to improve our human development ranking and gain a totally new respect for human beings. So that is where I say, I think HRD has to focus on human. The last human has to be brought back, and we should say human beings are wonderful. There is no business with people. Human HRD is not a business partner. HRD is business. It's more than business. It makes business, it takes business, and it gives, I think, a direction for business. So HRD is far above all this. Therefore, I think remember the human part of it. And that is what I would expect, I think, all of us to strive for. So Sinha Sahab and Nathan, hope I think you have some thoughts for your new next venture or next series of how to make people human and focus on at a larger level of the society. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. It is so nice. It's a great privilege to be on the occasion of this great book, Bahrupian Challenge. Thank you very much, sir, and all the best.
And reading a few lines from the book itself, HR is not just a role alone. It is about being human and helping in building a human organization. There's also a reference to a line by Sir Martin Luther King Jr., who says, our scientific power has outrun our spiritual power. We have guided missiles and misguided men. So somewhere we all have to, bring back our learnings from the culture and have a civilization of development for a greater human society. Thank you so much for the wonderful words.
Quote karti hai, right?
Sinha sir, you want to say something?
No, I think I would have loved to invite Dhananjay and GP and Akhil to say 2 lines at least each to motivate us.
So yes, sir, congratulations have been pouring in the messages, and you'll definitely read them later. And it'll be great to have a few people share their congratulations right here. Oh yeah, Mr. Dhananjay Singh.
Thank you, Sinha sir, Dr. Saloni. Many congratulations, Mr. Nathan and Professor K.K. Sinha. It's a real proud privilege to be part of this journey and seeing this culmination which you all have brought it here. And it was such a privilege listening to Dr. T.V. Rao, Dr. Arvind Agrawal, Krish. I can only say that we look forward to more initiatives. We look forward to more books coming, which will really help. And as rightly Dr. Arvind Agrawal said, that books are timeless. And it is something which, it is a co-creation where a lot of people have contributed. And we are grateful to each one of the panelists who have joined us over the years and shared their wisdom and created this. So thank you so much. Many congratulations once again. Ye dil mange more. Dhanyawad. Thank you.
Indeed. You're very, very right, sir. We really need more of these. I think there are many others who would love to share their congratulations right here. May I invite Mr. G.P. Rao? Yeah.
Good evening to all. It's great to see two of our great friends, Nathan and Professor Sinha, producing a valuable book called The Bahrupian. It's a proposition of aligning, integrating business and values at one place. It's very inspiring. And they have articulated the need, relevance, the appropriateness to work on every aspect of realities and ensuring a right mix of Bahrupian acts with value-rich Upanishadic colors. And I'm sure this book will be a great reference for the humanity at large. And we are very happy that to have Arvind, Krish, Dr. T.V. Rao, and everybody here. Thank you and congratulations to all of you once again. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. I think we can have a few more quick congratulatory messages before we invite Ms. Jyoti from Bloomsbury, India. Dr. Akhil Busrai, would you like to say something? Please unmute yourself, sir.
Can Mr. Kim Sera also say a few words?
Yeah, Sir Dr. Busrai is saying something right now, and after that, I'll invite Mr. Kim. Thank you, sir.
And KK and Nathan, congratulations. You are actually practicing Bahrupians. And it just proves that you guys can play so many different roles besides playing Santur, right? Besides being an educationist, besides being a professional. In fact, I was talking to Das today on some webinar, your successor in NTPC, and he was praising you to heavens, KK, for your role in NTPC. And Nathan, your ability to tell stories, besides being an effective HR professional, all this is Bahrupians. And I had the same doubt, TV Garu, when I saw this name Bahrupian, I thought it was very derogatory. And same thing what Arvind mentioned. So I actually called up KK. I said, "Aur kuch naam nahi mila." So he said, "Nee, this is the background." And that is the mystery of the HR, that sometimes we want to say something and people understand something else. And I like the way TV Garu has mentioned the whole idea of taking HR to the grassroots level and changing this Bahrupian role to go to the masses. But most of all, your previous books, KK, were interesting. I have not read this book, but I'll certainly get a copy in a day or two. And Nathan, your first debut into writing, you keep writing your blogs and all, but writing a book and editing a book is a different ball game. So become now a professional Bahrupian. And now that you have a role as an HRD and president, one more Bahrupian role added to you. And just see the richness of Bahrupians that we have in these two people. Chaturvedi Sahab, actually credit goes largely to BIMTECH and to you for putting this as a trigger point. So it's a privilege to be here. And today I feel proud as an HR person, particularly in today's meeting, for a simple reason that we seldom acknowledge our own accomplishment of the friends and colleagues around us. And today I sat through listening to every word and feeling proud that I am amidst good people. So KK, Nathan, congratulations. Thank you for this book and TV Garu, your vision about this whole idea of HVP. What is the initials? Human
Possibility Volunteers.
HPV. Not Human Possibility Volunteers.
HPV. Maybe I think that itself will give rise to new set of Bahrupians. So thank you very much, KK, Nathan. All the very best to you. And thank you for having me over. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Mr. Kimestra, would you please unmute yourself and let's hear your congratulatory message. You've always been a big supporter. And thank you for joining in today as a panel.
Yeah. First of all, I would like to thank Professor Chaturvedi and for inviting me to join this event. And I will also like to congratulate Professor Sinha and Mr. Nathan. I am delighted to join this auspicious event, I would say, and wish you all the best. Basically, I was also a bit perturbed when I read the title, Bahurupia, and I always thought that Bahurupiyas are maskaras or something like that. But what I understand today is something different. So I learned a lot today, and also what Professor TV Rao has mentioned. It's also very interesting, but I was a bit, when he mentioned that we rank 131 in 189 nations, it's really a lot of work to be done. I think he has contributed a lot, but I think um, many of us will be disappointed with this score. Okay. Yeah. And Professor TV Rao, if you remember, I was so much interested in your HR activities and 360 degree. So when I was leaving Birla Group, I thought that I will get a franchise from you for Thailand. And I visited you all the way to Ahmedabad. So thank you very much. And I wish all the best to everyone who is attending. Congratulations once again, Professor Sinha and Mr. Nathan. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for those wonderful words. And I'm sure that, the best day would be when we meet once again, and there'll be this next book of Sir, and I'll also be there. So I'll already book my seat. Right now, I think the one person who needs to be here to tell us uh, so much about their organization and how BIMTECH and Bloomsbury India together, we have been, across several events, conferences, we have had their support and we came up with these beautiful volumes every now and then. So I think this is important moment again in this session today. Vote of thanks by Ms. Jyoti Mehrotra. She's from Bloomsbury, India, and she's been the person behind all these beautiful creations from our campus. And Ms. Jyoti, please unmute yourself. Bloomsbury, as we all know, globally is very, very famous for the Harry Potter series. So, Ms. Jyoti, over to you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. So on behalf of Bloomsbury, I would like to congratulate and thank Dr. Chaturvedi, Sinha sir and Nathan sir for giving us the opportunity to publish their new book, The Bahrupians. I'm so happy to be associated with the sir for this book and so many other books as well. So, and he has been so creative with his titles like Manthan, Return of Surya, and now The Bahrupians. I mean, like, this is really very good for a book if the title is so interesting and so catchy. So, and I really look forward for the next book and another great title. Thank you so much, sir, for giving us the opportunity.
Thank
you
Jyoti.
so much.
Thank you, Jyoti. You have been a great help, Jyoti.
Real pleasure, sir. The pleasure is all mine.
Yeah. Very
Thank you
so much, sir.
Thank you, Ms. Jyoti, for all the
Thank
constant
you so much,
support. And our bookshelf looks amazing, with all the creations from BIMTECH and Bloomsbury together. Thank you so much for supporting us all through, and many more in the future, definitely.
Yes, we do look forward.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you so much, everybody. I think we all are very greedy for more, and very soon I'm sure we'll plan a wonderful session on the book. And a few lines here again, which I think I must read before we conclude. This is something which was just being spoken about by Dr. TV Rao. He also said that. I'm taking your line from the book itself, sir. He says HRD managers of today do not have adequate professional preparation. They enter the work world ill-equipped with a master's in social work or a diploma in training, personal management, or industrial relations. And therefore, when assigned HRD tasks, they have an extremely inadequate understanding of business needs and feel comfortable reducing any job to an administrative job. And that's the reason why, I think this is the book to go to. And no preparation can be better learned. And this is where all the wisdom lies. So The major workforce is in 30s, 40s. That's the kind of diversity we see in the age group in HR community within the corporates. So I think this is a huge blessing for all of us. And thank you so much for inspiring us, Mr. S. V. Nathan and Professor Kishore Sinha. And thank you everybody who joined in today. I really love the session, and I'm sure that all of you will pick up the book soonest. So thank you once again, and
Saloni,
greetings to
may I
everybody.
interfere? I'll just like to thank Dr.
Sure,
T.V. Rao,
Sure.
who has been really very kind and very promptly supported us by being accepting the role of chief guest. And Nathan, of course, I find Arvind and Krish not here. Arvind is there. So Arvind, thank you very much. You have been always a big support, and very encouraging friend. Dr. Chaturvedi, you have been always teaching us so much of encouragement, so much of motivation. I was not here. I was writing poetry, I think. So I think perhaps thank you very much for all. Nathan and Chitra madam, thank you very much. You have been a wonderful support. You have been wonderful support to me and my wife also. Yeah. So wonderful. And all of Kim Sera Sahab, Dr. Anupam Verma, Dr. Arora, Dr. Mansi, Dr. G.P. Rao Garu, and Dhananjay. My best wishes, and Dr. Nayak. My best wishes as a personal friend as well as a professional friend, if I can call myself, along with you. Wish you all the very best. You have been very kind and very supportive of us. Keep guiding us. Keep guiding us. Keep guiding us.
So, Professor Sinha, I want to thank a few people. I want to start with you, Professor Sinha. First of all, I want to thank you because you called me and said, Nathan, can you be a co-author? And at that time, I have no idea about what writing. I had no idea about what writing was about. Nothing. And I have also no recollection of what I mumbled. But after I put the phone down, I was just thinking, what am I going to contribute to something? And you were already a person who had written about 3 books. And what am I supposed to be doing out there? Then I remembered that my role was no more than that squirrel which was there on the banks when the Ram Setu was built. Right? So
Wonderful.
All that the squirrel did was take, wet his tail out there, go out to the sand, and then shake it and come back. And that's about all I did. And for this very minor thing, calling me a co-author to me is the greatest of acknowledgement I could ever receive ever in my life.
You are being very modest, Nathan. You are being very modest. You are a great...
I know where I stand, sir. So thank you very much. I also want to thank a couple of people. The guiding light for us is always the person who started all of the activities around human resources. And Rao Garu, thank you so much. You continue to inspire us.
Oh,
Professionals out here are really, when they voice opinions, it's almost like Veda Vyak, which is almost like this is the voice of reason, this is the voice of what the Vedas say. So that is what, every time you speak, to me, they are more like those golden words. I want to take a moment to thank Dr. Chaturvedi. What a man.
Oh, yes.
It didn't start today, sir. It started very many years back. This whole thing around doing the roundtables, sustaining it, not for 1 year, 2 years, but continuously for so many years, non-stop. That is what you have done. And a very, very special thanks to you. Dhananjay, thank you so much. From the NHRD side, every time any of these were to be managed, I know there is your hand pushing things along. Special thanks to you.
A big support.
For all of you who are still on the call, 67 of you, what can I say? We are very, very privileged. We are very, very privileged. When the attention span of people is not more than 3 seconds on a WhatsApp, something that was referred to earlier, spending almost like an hour and 40 minutes on a call like this is grace enough. So thank you very much. We are very honored, very privileged. Back to you, Saloni.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
And like we always do, we'll conclude with a good night message from, again, the book itself, from the authors. And I found this very, very relevant to conclude this session. It says, humanity is unaware of the intrinsic wealth within oneself. People seek wealth and enjoyment in the external world. Few realize that there can be no fulfillment only through acquisition or enjoyment. And when we talk about the intrinsic wealth, I think it's important to identify the Bahrupias around you, learn from them, grow with them, and help Professor Sinha and S.V. Nathan bring a second book again out of this. Thank you so much and good night. Take care.
Thank you, Saloni. Thank you
Bye.
for a wonderful
Bye
job you have done, Saloni.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night. Thank you, Abhinav, for the support. And thank you, Sinha sir and
Thanks,
Dr. Chaturvedi for this beautiful opportunity.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Jipingaru.
Thank you, Nathan. Thank
God
you,
bless
Nathan.
you.
Thank you, Professor Sinha.
Okay, thank
Thank
you.
you, sir. Thank you very
Bye-bye.
much.
Kishore, keep
Bye,
inspiring.
Nathan. Bye, KK.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
See you, Akhil. Bye.
Thank you,
Congratulations, sir.
Varma sir and
Congratulations,
Arora
Professor
sir,
K.
everybody.
Thank you.
अरे परमेश्वर साहब आपको ढूंढ रहे थे हम लोग. सिन्हा साहब याद कर रहा था.
Thank you very much. You know, I was proud. I was nice.
And end of the day, the show director है Dr. Chaturvedi. खाली BIMTECH का director नहीं है. ये पूरा show, the whole.
Give him a hand. Give him a hand.
Vision है, mission. आज का अभी तक जितना हुआ, आगे का भी, वो permanent director है. बाकी players बहुरूपियन आएंगे, जाएंगे, सब करेंगे. वो director है.
KK Nathan, you must have some system of digitalizing your writing, autographing the book now, you know.
Yeah, you're good.
I've just ordered the link that Saloni provided. It's very thoughtful of you, Saloni, to provide the link. I went straight to the Amazon. I placed the order while I was talking.
Wow.
Okay.
I was going to send you a copy.
All I want is a one-page signature of both of you, to autograph.
Yeah.
That is more
Nathan, you take the lead. You're a digital guy.
I will do that. I will do that.
Good,
wonderful. Thank you so much.
And I
Thank
think
you.
Arvind
Thank you so much. All the best once again.
Arvind really hit the
Look
nail.
forward to see many more such events, releasing books by people like you.
And keep on honoring us by your presence, valuable presence.
Always inspiration. Always a pleasure.
I was speaking to Das today. What is it, Das, right?
Saptarshi Das.
No, you met Mr. Patel.
No. LND, who was LND head in NTPC, who is now, what is he now? I was in a seminar with them today, webinar today with JP School.
Okay.
His name is Das, right? GB?
I don't remember.
We are not able to relate actually.
Who's the NTPC HR head now?
No, he is Mr.
Patel. He's Dilip Patel.
नहीं वो नहीं था तो this was
कोई बात नहीं आप कहानी बता दो
उसको मैंने बोला कि उसका launch है so he mentioned a lot of things about NTPC and your contribution there and all
सर उसका नाम है DS Rao
sorry Rao यार DS Rao
okay he's a wonderful guy
आप चतुर्वेदी साहब पूछो ना
wonderful guy.
So remember, KK, I called you up when you told me about this book earlier about the title. I said, "Yeah, क्या title लिया है?" And today Arvind Agrawal opened the mystery about the title. Like he also thought that I was shy to talk about it. What I thought of the title was very shy. But today Arvind was bold enough to openly talk. The title stings, But when you go to the meaning of Bahrupian,
you read the book, Akhil. You'll enjoy
yes, sir,
it.
I will solid. And I will write my own notes out of that because Nathan is good at storytelling. The squirrel ka story.
Yeah.
Thanks very much. Congratulations, KK and Nathan. Congratulations.
Thank you. Akhil bhai, just to mention, just yesterday, I signed up with one of these leading publishers and in the next book. For my book in the next 4 to 5 months.
Decided the publisher, you're telling me 4 names. You decided?
So it will be on. I will certainly make sure that we have another such gathering. But
and when is the launch of the book now?
See, I don't know. I think it will be early Feb is when they will launch it. So they are waiting for
6 to 8 months.
Yeah, 6 to 8 months.
Will it come as a surprise to me, Nathan?
So,
hey, you know what, KK, what that means? While he was working on a book with you, he was doing part-time job behind your back. क्या यही होता है बहरूपियन का यही क्वालिटी है 2 काम कर रहा था देखो
Bharupi boss.
Wonderful. I really enjoyed
it. You seem to have inspired him. Yeah? He was talking to me about some of the publishers and he said writing that book with you inspired him actually. So you are a seed planter.
Yeah.
That is true.
We are all wonderfully
connected. All the best for your new book. And
Thank you.
In case you are looking for a squirrel, I am available.
Who's that? Who said that?
Manushi.
Sinha sir and Nathan ji. Sinha sir and Nathan ji, I find the title of the book is showing that you are a good marketing professor also, because the title itself, your title, I tell you, because of title, the book will be sold more than what it could have been otherwise. I think those somebody who will go read the book, then only they will understand. But the title of the book is so catchy and interesting. Those who are not interested to buy book also will buy to know what it is.
Marketing, look at this. They pretend to be HR gurus, but actually they are marketing.
Marketing, yeah. I see this.
Do numbers HR wale. They are all do numbers HR. He's a marketing guru pretending to be HR.
I find the book is interesting. But, it has a surface value, and then somebody who reads will definitely take the real value of the book.
So KK, but today we get a good chance to pull your leg here.
Yeah, I can provide only one because other is broken actually.
What happened?
Which is true, which is actually true.
Actually, this
yeah.
I don't want to show my big huge plaster to you now.
Oh my God! How did you break that? How?
It was a dirty place to fall down, in the bathroom. So,
so sorry.
Oh, that's why you're not in Hawaii with your family. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry to hear that. Sorry.
Thank you very much, all of you. And have a good night. Thank you, Saloni. Thank you very much.
Chitra next to you. Better look after her. She was your inspiration. If you ever have a problem with him, we know how to fix him. Don't worry.
The other one also.
Thank you very much for actually being the initiator for this.
Thank you, Nayak sir. Thank you, Nayak sir, for the support.
Bye, Saloni.
Very well compared. Thank you so much.
Nathan and Mrs. Nathan, Chitra Nathan, thank you very much for all the support every day.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you for your book to be released in 2022.
Thank you, sir.
He shall be part of it.
Thank you very much,
sir.
You have always encouraged us.
Thank you, sir. Bye.